Kristopher Matheson is one of my favorite people to talk to. Not only is he a terrific photographer, he's also funny as hell. We don't talk often, but when we do, I always come away inspired and wanting to dive a little deeper into my own work. Not too long ago, Kristopher started posting images from a series he calls Behind Glass. Now, I love pretty much everything Kristopher posts, but there was something about these pictures that really caught my attention. So I called him up and asked where the idea came from. And since Kristopher is a pretty fastidious journaler, I expected a detailed explanation citing influences and connections to other projects. Instead, he just said, I have no idea. Wait, what now? I'm Jeffrey Sidoris. I'm talking to Kristopher Matheson, and this is In Between. So how are things going creatively? How are you feeling?
Getting back into it.
Good.
Getting some stuff done. I did the other day and was updating I updated my yearly project. Got the photos selected for it, and I went out to do the photos for this year that I won't look at for the next full year.
Right.
And I was like, because last year the weather was so terrible and time constraints, so I was like, okay, I'm setting a 24 frames. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I get 24 frames, and I'm done. So the other day I was out and I'm counting. I'm like, okay, I'm at 12 frames. Battery died. I was like, okay, I'll take out the spare battery. Wasn't charged. I was like, okay. 5 p.m. It's getting dark. I was like, 12 frames is enough.
Where does the Behind Glass series fit? Because I know you posted something about that, and I love those photographs.
I don't know where that fits yet, because I've been taking those photos and doing them more regularly, and I usually have something written in a journal
right
about each collection that I do. I can't find anything anywhere
referencing that collection
at all.
Really?
Nothing. I know, years ago, I was doing doors at temples,
right?
And maybe that's where it started, but.
So this just sort of appeared in your mix, and it became some sort of theme that you kept following occasionally, yeah?
I think when I was looking through about 3 years ago, it just randomly cropped up.
Wow.
That for some reason I decided, I decided to perv in someone's window.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
have
interesting.
No idea
I mean, it's that might be an interesting angle to record about. Is you are such a fastidious planner of not planner. That's the wrong word.
Attentive planner.
No, planner is the wrong word. I mean, I guess part of it is planning, but you are such a fastidious sort of journaler and chronicler of ideas. It's interesting to me that you can't find any reference of this anywhere, and yet there are multiple images that sort of explore this theme. But you don't have any mention of that theme anywhere.
No, because usually when I pick up on a theme, I go back and I look at the photos, then I start jotting some ideas down of how I can make it better or anything like that. But this time, this Behind Glass just kind of came out of nowhere.
Right. And you find yourself still drawn to the image? I mean, are you looking at the images and going, there's still more work here to do? Or do you just take it as it is and kind of leave it unconscious or subconscious and let it evolve when and where it needs to? Because it sounds like these are themes or compositions that just catch your eye every once in a while. It's not even a consistent theme in the rest of your body of work.
No, I think it's just something that I find when walking around and it's basically eye level.
Mm-hmm.
Eye level windows, anything on the second, anything above the first floor, second floor if you're across a street, or if you can get into the middle of the street to get a decent angle and with the zoom lens. Anything higher than that, the distortion is too great to fix, because everything's wonky if you hit the in Lightroom, if you hit the perspective correction.
Oh, right. For correcting for parallax or whatever.
Yeah, everything just goes too wonky.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just things I guess things that I see, and I guess maybe I am letting just go subconsciously, just let it go.
Yeah. Are there similarities in terms of, are there compositional similarities? Are they taken roughly at the same times of day? Or is there anything that runs through them as a theme or a thread beyond the subject matter itself?
I guess the only thing would be like compositional style that if I'm close enough, I try to include whatever's interesting in the window and like the window frame to make an L, and then usually 2 or 3 inches below that to act like a second frame.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like if you're looking at like a picture frame, but you're like looking down at the corner at something, and you still have like the picture, the mat, and then the frame, I guess, would be the best way I could. That's the only compositional thing keeping it throughout.
And do you find that you're consciously looking for glass that's either mottled or frosted or in some way not clear? Or is that just what that's just what you see when you look back at the photographs? It's not conscious.
Majority of glass on first floor windows of residential buildings is always security glass.
Ah, okay.
Very rare to find like actual clear glass. Really rare, unless the building's old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating again because you and I have talked so many times about your almost mind mapping technique of not only keeping track of ideas and projects, but seeing how those ideas and projects are related to one another. It's interesting to watch you sort of push in and pull back on your journals because everything is connected for you.
And it's either in journals or it's on like little like index cards. And I've searched through piles of my index cards and file folders with like other notes, and there's nothing about this project or these images that I've given any thought to.
Is there any other small body of work in the sort of totality of your larger body of work that this has happened with? Is there any other sort of little micro themed portfolio, if you will, that exists, or are all of the other photographs tied to ideas that you can sort of track?
There's I do have another set of images that I haven't put up and I haven't shared them anywhere yet that go with the recontextualized series that are all more or less like they're just that one I know has constraints. It needs a white background and black spray paint or black whatever's used. And it's ones that look like handwriting that are kind of like more like symbolic. Like they are often part of like graffiti of someone like writing something in Japanese or English letters. But I do the same thing as the recontextualize. I kind of focus in on one graphic element that catches my eye.
And is that intentional, or is that like the behind glass thing? Is that just sort of a byproduct of being present and it happens to catch your eye in the moment?
It was a byproduct of doing the recontextualize. When I was doing those images, I had like the color stuff and this black and white stuff.
Right.
And when I was looking at them, the black and white ones did not fit exactly what I wanted. So I kind of set them off to the side and then started finding more of them. And then I have an idea of how I want to print them, but I haven't figured out the best way to do it yet. I'm not sure if you've ever, like in Japan, I think in Japan and also like in China, in some homes, well, actually most homes, there's this one space in kind of like the one living room. It's like a little alcove, and there's usually like a vase, and they might put like a little bit of like a flower or a small arrangement in that vase. And there's a hanging scroll that's usually like a poem for the season, or grandpa drew or painted a picture and they hang this scroll there, and it changes seasonally. And it's usually I don't know, maybe 12-inch width and usually maybe about 4 feet long.
Okay.
And I would like to do these black and white images of take them and kind of reduce the image size down to about what a written character would be in ink on one of these things, and just like put them down to make it look like something written in Japanese or Chinese, but it has zero meaning. But people who don't know Chinese or Japanese will look at it and think it has meaning.
Right. But in reality, it's just gibberish.
Yeah.
Interesting. And where do you see that as a printed series, like you're doing sort of, you're almost curating some of the printed work. Do you see that as you can get these as a set, or would you do them individually? Do they have more meaning for you as a body of work, or individual pieces that stand on their own?
Maybe as a body of work, where like they're usually like families have some of them and they don't have a lot because they're usually made by someone in the family. Like you just don't go to you don't go to Walmart and buy these things.
Right.
There's usually like sentimental value for it, or like it was a gift originally, or they're handed down like through the generation. I think like a set of, I could see a set of 4.
Mm-hmm. Are they reused from year to year, or once they're used for that, once those seasons of that particular year are used, then they're stored and new ones are put up? Or are they heirlooms in the sense that they are taken out and reused seasonally over and over?
Seasonally. Yeah. So the ones that would be like spring would be like they dust off the spring one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So these could be decades old in some cases.
Yeah. Some of them could be decades old.
Wow.
And then they just kind of like when they're stored, they just roll up. And so they have these like little they're like just scroll cases that they're kept in.
Do you see Japanese culture or a Japanese sort of aesthetic, a visual aesthetic, affecting your work? Or was your work, is this all just you? I mean, can you make that distinction of where the culture influences your work, or are you actively trying to be apart from Japanese culture? I guess it comes down to like, do you still see yourself as a Westerner? You know what I mean?
I think culturally, I'm still a Westerner, but photographically, I don't think I am, because I started always taking photographs here for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of influence in that. But I mean, there was so much, I guess, like all the photographers I looked at were not Japanese when I first started.
Right.
But I think in the last little while, like, again, a project that I have that's not on the website yet, but I think you've probably seen it on Instagram, or I've mentioned it before. I have a series of images where I just posted, they're called like B-side.
Right.
I think
there are a couple prints available from B-sides, aren't there?
Possibly.
You have so much work up that you can't even keep track anymore.
Well, I have no idea what's on my print store. I'm in the process of changing my print store as well. So, but I think the B-side one is very related to living in Japan and Japanese and Asian cultural influences.
How so?
Have you watched any of that? You have Netflix?
Yes.
Have you watched that Marie Kondo, Simplifying Your Life, Cleaning Everything Up?
The organizational woman that, if it doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it.
Yeah. Put it in your hands and hold it, and if it doesn't bring you joy,
right. I've heard it. A friend of ours was over for dinner the other night and said, "You have to watch this. It's really interesting," but I still haven't seen it.
Side note: most of my students think she's bullshit, but
the boots on the ground are not convinced.
I had always assumed, and this is like, well, it was an assumption, that Japanese houses were meticulous.
Yeah, not true.
They are rats' nests.
See, that's our perception here, is that everything is arranged just so. Everything is sort of fastidiously placed.
That one room where they like, there's often like in a traditional house, there's like kind of a room where like guests go, and then there's like the family rooms.
Right.
The family rooms in the kitchen are just usually like, if you saw some of the food that you're eating coming out of these kitchens, you'd be like, ooh, no. When was the last time you cut that cutting board? Washed that cutting board? Oh, decades ago. Okay.
Right.
But kind of that idea of if something doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like, I know one change in my photography was taking pictures of people brings me zero joy anymore.
Yeah, I remember us talking about that when you first kind of really made that realization that I don't like this. What is it about it? Why? What's the Is it a tension between you and the subject, or do you feel like they're a distraction from the rest of the composition? What is it?
I think basically was, I think we mentioned it before. It was just like like there's a scene, and I'm waiting for a person to come into the scene who fits the scene.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anyone. The
Right.
person is like irrelevant.
Right. They're just a prop in a sense.
They're basically they're just a color prop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Waiting for like the right color coat or like the right color like shoes to contrast with something that's like 3 feet above them. And I think that's when like what I started really thinking about. I was just like, people just don't matter.
So they don't add anything to the composition, even waiting for the right when the right one shows up. Is that still a distraction from the rest of the composition? Are you making sort of concessions, going, okay, that's good enough because I need to move on?
Sometimes it became that it's like, okay, that will fit, and then like a week later when I'm looking at the photos, I'm like, no, it doesn't really work. Like a week after, I actually even got to the point where I was like looking at like what was that one famous image by Cartier-Bresson, the guy jumping like off the plank and kind of over
like
over
the little puddle thing. Yeah, sure.
That could have been. There's another guy. I think there's another person in that frame, like a little off to the side.
Right.
It has me questioning is like, how spontaneous is that image?
Mm-hmm.
It looks spontaneous.
Right. But he could have been sitting there for 4 hours waiting for that person.
Or that same guy, he could have been like, do it again.
Right.
Do it again.
Left leg up a little higher this time. Come on.
Yeah. Okay, now we just got to wait for the puddle to smooth out.
Right.
And then, yeah, so it got me questioning like everything about street photography. Of when I'm now looking at people's street photography, I kind of like erase the person when I'm looking at it and see what is left. And I've really come to not enjoy street photography anymore for the most part.
But here's what's fascinating about hearing that from you, and it, especially with Behind Glass, there are no people in any of those photographs, but there is the evidence of people in almost every one of them. So there is still a relationship between people and the image, even though we don't actually see people. But those images, by and large, they're, like I say, there's still a representation of humanness in them. Yeah.
And it had me also thinking, like, when I listened to one of the in-betweens with you and John, and you were talking about, like, you can't really remember, like, your mother's voice.
Right. Well, I think, you know what? That was John. John said he couldn't remember his mother's voice because she had esophageal, was it esophageal cancer? Oh gosh, now I don't remember. I'm sorry, but it was John who said that.
Yeah.
I don't remember my mom's face without looking at a photograph.
But you probably have like an item of hers that she owned.
Yes, many.
Okay. That's all we're left with is what people have left behind. Is just these items that represent an actual person. But the actual person is long gone. They're slowly forgotten.
Right.
But that item remains. And I think that's where some of these images are, where I'm going, like the B-side images are pretty much all about that. It's like the evidence of people without the people.
Interesting. So you're getting that sort of people fix, but not having to
deal with people.
Yeah. Or manage expectations around not getting the right, in my air quotes here, the right person to fit the composition. You can still get evidence of them without having to see them. That's fascinating. That's really fascinating. And the fact that, again, that this came about with the Behind Glass series, that this came about seemingly of its own volition without any sort of previs or preconception or direction on your part, is fascinating.
Well, some of the really original of those Behind Glass ones in my B-side project, when I was going through them, because I'll go through Lightroom, and when I see a project idea, I start retitling them. And I was going through the Behind Glass ones, because they're all just like in Lightroom, they're just tagged as windows. And so when I was scrolling through them, and saw that some of the ones from like about 2 years ago had already been titled with B-side. So they must have been early on. They must have been just an extension of that, like looking for evidence of people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, best way to find evidence of people is looking through their windows
Without getting caught.
and without trying to make myself look like a pervert or.
So what goes into making each of these pictures? Are you there kind of working that window or scene for a while, or because you've given yourself not constraints really, but the idea that you want to see one edge and a bottom or one edge and a top, you want to see that one corner somewhere. Do you just snap that and move on, or are you kind of working those scenes until something clicks?
Well, it's either like one side or like the bottom left or bottom right, and usually something in the window catches my eye as I'm walking by,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'll sometimes like take a couple of step backs or cross the street to get a bit better visual, and typically I will wait until the street is empty before lifting my camera to point it at someone's window.
Interesting. So you don't. Wow. Okay. So not only do you not want people in the scene, you don't want people in the environment when you're capturing or when you're coming up with a composition to capture. That's fascinating. Like you're removing people completely from the experience.
I think removing like people on waiting till like someone like walks by or the street's a little more deserted.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, for me, it's come to the point where the uncomfortableness of someone, you're standing on a street while you're a foreigner standing on a street with your camera pointed at someone's window.
Right.
You become slightly suspicious.
Right. Do you still feel like a foreigner 12, 13 years on?
Oh, yeah. You'll always be a foreigner.
Yeah.
Even to people that I know, occasionally they still will just little comment or just like say something. It's just like they still even think that you're not really of here. Even if you, like, if I decided for whatever god awful mental idea to like change my nationality.
Right.
Even though I become like a Japanese, I'm not,
right,
air quote, Japanese.
You're still, you'll always be the gaijin.
Yeah, you'll always be the other, the outsider.
Yeah, I'm so glad we talked about this because, again, it's fascinating to see the photograph that's in front of the camera and now hear from you imagining the photograph that's taking place behind the camera, imagining what's going on behind the camera, of you being not only intentional about what you see through the lens, but how you're seen in the environment.
What's going on?
Yeah. Is that only with regard to this body of work, or do you feel that way always, where you don't want people around ever?
I think it's mostly, like, I know for the, like, doing the B-side images, I occasionally have to wait because I see like some objects that basically say like, okay, there were people here, but there's like people milling around having a smoke. So it's like, okay, I have 10 minutes. I can wait them out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll wait until they leave, but like there's still people like walking back and forth, but I just wait until they're like out of the frame. But those ones, there's always people around.
Mm-hmm.
Probably only the window ones where I kind of wait until the person's like well away before I lift the camera.
Right.
But then again, I can get away with it the way that I use my camera. So
right. Yeah,
for the most part.
We've talked about that. You're pretty stealthy in your use of the camera.
Yeah.
Or can be.
I mean, for most things, it's pretty easy, but getting a window, I have to bring it up to like, well, I don't use the eyepiece at all anymore. And so I'm still using like the view screen. So I got to bring the view screen up like eye level. So that means the camera is actually like, the lens would be like forehead level.
Right.
Not exactly conspicuous. Standing at a wall with your camera pointed at someone's window.
Muffled sound of a shower beyond.
Yeah. Oh. Occasionally, and I know this is written in my journals somewhere, that I was going to have a series of images where the images were not going to have anything in common whatsoever, but the titles were going to be what I could smell.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see that.
Because, I mean, I'm out around either like early morning, so it's breakfast,
mm-hmm.
lunch, or dinner, and it's like, ooh, someone's cooking fish, someone's doing this, or like, okay, I can smell like the shampoo someone's using in the shower, because the showers are usually have open windows,
right?
Like blinded open windows, so you can catch smells. and I have a pretty sensitive nose to begin with. So I was going to do is just a series of images of what I could smell when I took the photo.
What does your journal look like for this year? I'm sorry.
Well,
what does one of your journals look like for this year?
Come on now,
Can I tell you, as an aside, Kristopher, I am 3 pages away from 100% filling a Moleskine journal from page 1 to the end.
You have another one ready to go right after?
I do. I have a Rhodia journal ready to go. I started this one on November 5th, and I have written every day in this journal, and I will finish it the last 3 pages today.
I'll let you in on a secret. I never fill in the last 3 pages of a journal.
No, don't tell me that.
I don't, because
I finally do it, and I'm still doing it wrong.
I can't do it because if I am writing something and I'm on a roll and it's more than 3 pages,
yeah,
I don't want it split. Everything
I hear that.
For that time constrained in one journal.
I hear that.
So yeah, don't have 3 pages. Just move on to the next one.
Interesting. And remind me, are you still doing separate drawing and writing journals, or have you merged sort of doodles and drawings and diagrams and flowcharts into the writing journal, so there's just one big one, one main one, I should say?
I do have a doodle journal that I will occasionally take, and I have like these watercolor brushes.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just like these watercolor brushes of different colors that some days where I just want, if I'm not going out to like take pictures, or I just feel like scribbling like a kindergarten kid on paper,
right,
I'll do that. But for the most part, I've got everything in the one journal.
And I'm looking on your site. Are you not doing the like the flowcharts of inspiration anymore? Or are those? Am I looking in the wrong place?
Nope, those are the ones. I still do those, but they haven't been in my journal.
Mm-hmm.
I found those got hard to get done sometimes.
Right.
I think it's because I kept trying to do like 2 a week, and it didn't really work, and then I got discouraged with it. So I kind of like so many things, you just get discouraged and let something die a slow death.
I don't know anything about that.
What are you talking about, Willis?
Are you still a Rothko fan? Is Rothko still kind of on your radar?
Yep.
Okay. There's a new show that's being mounted at the National Gallery, and it's not up yet. They're not done with it yet, but I wanted to get you the catalog and send it to you because I know you like his work.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. I found out a few months ago that there is, I can't remember which series of paintings he did, and they're supposed to go into a gallery somewhere in America, but he decided to pull them at the last minute because he didn't like the light.
Yeah, I could see that. I can't
remember what series it was.
You know, I didn't know. I asked our friend Michelle, who's the paper conservator at the National Gallery. She's working somehow on this, but I asked her, I said, I've never known this. Was Rothko trying to express some sort of existential truth, or was he trying to express some sort of idea or ideology with his work, or was it just an exploration of color that he wanted the viewer to react to? Like, I'm not going to put myself on this and tell you what I feel from it. What do you feel? And she said, absolutely the latter. His thing was just color and emotion and allowing the viewer to feel what he or she felt while standing in front of this piece.
Wow. Yeah.
Which I think is great.
I got that. I felt that early on. Like, it was just like, the thing that I got was, do you know his optimal viewing distance?
It's on some of the cards at the museum.
See that? I wish they wouldn't do that. Cards at the museums, I think, gives too much information because people look at the text first and then the image, and they go, right. "Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I'm supposed to."
I see that. Yeah, of course I see that.
Rather than trying to figure it out for yourself. But yeah, like something like 31 or 29.8 centimeters.
Right. So it basically encompasses your field of view.
Yeah. So the entire canvas fills your field of view.
And having done that, because there's a room in the National Gallery where it's I don't remember how 12, 15 of his pieces, and it's just his work in this particular room, and it really is a different experience standing across the room looking at 2 or 3 or 4 pictures all together versus taking steps forward where you only see the one image and that's all you can concentrate on, and just be with it for a minute, and just allow yourself to let those colors, and not just those colors, but the sort of after image colors of when you blink, see how those relate to what you've just looked at. That's fascinating to me as well.
Yeah. I think it was last spring. I went to tried a new museum, and I walk into one room, and they actually have a Rothko, and that's like the first one that I can think I actually ever really saw in person.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of it's all like book, and like walk in the room, and there's a Liechtenstein, and then there was Rauschenberg, and then there was one of his. I was just like, and the room's empty. There's like, at the time in that museum, I was the only patron in the museum.
Wow. Isn't that a great feeling, having just, I've never had an entire museum to myself, but I have had a room to myself, and I kind of love that. I kind of love just having that space to myself to be with the art.
Yeah, I mean, I had like the Rothko one. I got right up in it, and just like, if you have a chance to do it again, like see a Rothko up close, squat down. It changes the experience.
Interesting. So you're kind of looking up at it.
Well, not that you're looking up, but you're getting like the bottom corner.
Yeah.
Instead of just like what's at height. It kind of like, think of how like a 6-year-old would see the picture from.
Okay.
And the way that he paints is usually like, there's sometimes like the like kind of colors on the bottom, colors on the top, and then one big color field in the middle, and kind of like look like little puffy clouds around the corners or whatever. That changes the experience.
What was your reaction, or what was your experience seeing one in person for the first time relative to seeing them in books? Was it a different reaction? Was it more, I mean, I'm not going to even put a word on it. Was it different?
It was different. Mostly because maybe after I saw this one, I found the title and I searched for it online.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like comparing the color of like the digital version I'm seeing online versus the one that I'm standing in.
Oh, wow.
Standing in front of.
How close was it?
Not close at all.
Whoops.
Yeah, it was just, the color was darker in the museum than like the online one was like brightened. And I've heard that that's a problem with a lot of his work, that for the books they get brightened. Because
we want to see more vibrancy in the work, maybe?
Probably.
Yeah.
And I don't think he would like that at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I mean, being such a purposeful colorist, if I can use that word,
yeah,
I would imagine he would take offense to that.
Well, I mean, he took offense to how museums hung the lights and demanded that like the lights be changed, or you need this bulb, or the lights have to be at this certain angle, or.
Are there bodies of work that you've done that you feel that connection to color, or that color is that important for you in the work?
Project I started on this year, like 2 weeks ago, it's all about color. Well, I guess black and white's also color, but it's all just about color and fields of color.
Are any of the pieces up yet?
Nope. Bastard. They will be. Yeah. So. Actually, no, that's not true. I did put something on Instagram months ago, I think.
I really love how the B-sides play against, at least the ones that you've shared on Instagram, how the B-sides play against the behind glass work. They really do feel like they could be hung in the same show and complement each other really well.
Yeah. That's what that's why at first I was like struggling if they were part of B-side or not, but
Mm-hmm.
I think now they're on their own.
You seem to be kind of over black and white for the time being. Is that conscious?
I think I just got so wrapped up in this, like these B-side images that the architecture stuff and some of the black and white has kind of slipped to the side. But
Mm-hmm. Do you still shoot and process in black and white? You just don't post them, or are you actively just kind of taking a break from it?
I guess I had actively been taking a break from it,
Yeah.
but I know at the end of the year and the start of the year, both were started with black and white. So there'll be more coming. Actually, I think my next set of images. Nope. Thought I had some.
It's interesting, and this is something that you've done for a long time, and I really like this about your work and your approach to the work, is you do think in sets of images, both in how you present them on your site, and I'm assuming how you present them in social media. And I was talking to Sean Tucker, yesterday, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about social media. And one of the things that we've talked about before is how it's really geared toward looking at a single image, and it's difficult to see a series or a sequence unless they're presented as, multiple images per post. But it's difficult to see someone's work that you follow or that you're interested in as a sequence or anything other than that one single image that gets posted. Does that bother you? Do you even think about it?
I think it bothered me for a little while, but I basically for the last maybe 6 months, if you would look at you could probably look at my Instagram page, and then you'd probably notice that there's sets of 3 or 4 images that are related,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and then there's another 3 or 4 that are then related to each other. There's always where the change happens. There's those 2 images in 2 different sets, but they have something related.
Right, right.
And so
There's
they
a
kind of
transitional yeah, I can see that.
and
And is that intentional, that segue? It's got to be.
yeah, it's intentional. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm reordering them in Lightroom, or if I printed them out there, I did it that way. But then in December, I realized that the way that they're ordered on Lightroom, or when I have them as prints, it's reversed when I share them on Instagram.
Whoops. Does it affect how you experience them? Like if you scroll through, do you consciously see that and go, or does it matter to you? As long as they're in order, even if it's reverse order, they're still sequenced in the proper way, effectively.
There was a day where I was sitting and I was like looking at Instagram going, I could just delete the last 4 months of photos and then reshare them in the proper sequence.
Could I tell you? I could so see you doing that.
And then I just decided that's Instagram's problem with how the system works, not mine,
right.
Not my problem.
Right. See, I think you could, I think you could workshop how you sequence images, because you do put so much intent and so much sort of thought into how, or it seems that way. And please, tell me I'm full of shit if I am, but it, or just if you want to, it seems like you really do care how we experience your work as viewers.
When I started trying to make that just stupid zine last year, that really got me thinking about like sequencing, and then like just I don't know, maybe sometime last year was like so many people were trying to make like books, and there was like articles about sequencing and bodies of work and how things look, how some images work better, tell a story, but if you change them, the story changes. And it really got me thinking about, rather than me just going, okay, well, I'm going to share these 20 photos in this order because that's the order I took them. It was easy, but then I guess I started as an exercise of like trying to find images that were related. I don't know if I can't really explain the sequencing, but
does it affect how you experience your own work? I mean, if you look at it chronologically, and then you reorder it into either how you experience those places or how you experience how they're related, that's got to affect how you see your own work, because I know it affects how we see your work. Speaking for myself, I know it affects how I see your work.
I guess it does for a given time, but I mean, like I've gone back to some of the images before, and even when I was updating the website yesterday, like when I went through the recontextualized images, like the ones that have been on that page since 2 years ago, I was like, no, I got to move that one. And so they all shifted around a little bit. Some of them I actually deleted and took out of the project because I just like, it doesn't fit anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, it does change. And I guess it doesn't bother me until it bothers me. And then it's like, okay, I have to delete this one, or this color needs to move up to here, or something like that.
With the way, okay, let me ask you this. And let's stay on recontextualize for a second, because that's what I'm looking at right now. Do you still see this as an ongoing project, or is this kind of a snapshot of where this project is right now? And if you add to it, it then becomes, I mean, for lack of a better word, recontextualize volume 2? Or is it just an ever-growing, ever-changing sort of fluid type of project?
I do have a goal for the project. I'm just counting the image. 10, 11,
and your
12,
goal is to count to 10.
18, 19, 20, 21. So I'm at 42, so 84 images in this gallery.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is 99.
Why 99?
That was the original goal for some reason.
Interesting. So you've been working toward this, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously, but 99 has always been. What happens when you get to the goal? Is it a book? Does it get removed from the site altogether because it's done? Because that wouldn't surprise me either. If you just went, all right, this is done, it's out, you had your chance.
Actually, it had to do with, it actually had a mathematical thing to do with it. That the idea I had for this was, once I hit 99, I'd start selling prints of these, but the prints had to be purchased in triptychs.
Interesting. Do we get to choose which 3 images, or do you curate which 3 images go together?
No. You could choose your 3 images. And so out of that 99, the chances of someone having the same 3 as you are like astronomical.
Sure.
They're really high. And that's the only reason I had it as 99.
Would you restrict in some way? Like if I happen to choose the same 3 images as someone else, would it come up saying, nope, that combination has already been purchased? Please select, please swap one of the images. Or would you allow, in those astronomical cases, would you allow duplicates?
Part of me would say I wouldn't allow the duplicate.
I kind of love that.
And then the other part of me that said, you're throwing money away.
Right. But I kind of love that they exist. The combinations, there's one combination of that you can have. And if you choose that combination that somebody else already selected, select again. I kind of love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. I just have to get over the whole ooh, you're throwing money away.
Right.
Like, well, I'm not making money for the most part, so.
Right. Yeah. So it becomes even more valuable when it's not there.
Yeah. I do have the one project that I started this year about color. Basically what I'm doing is I'm making prints of some photos, and then I'm using a zoom lens, and in some cases a magnifying glass, and focusing on really individual parts of the entire image. So I make this 3-inch corner of a print gets then made into, I'm doing them just A4 size,
right?
Like letter size.
Yeah.
So that little 3-inch corner now gets printed as a new letter size image.
So good.
And then that letter size image that I just made from this one tiny corner, it can be made into a new image.
That's so good.
I'll have to send you the diagram of when I came up with this idea.
I'm sure it's like a madman scrawling his manifesto or something.
Well, it's just a doodle of how many times I think I can do an image that has really strong colors.
Right.
I think I could do it do that process maybe 16 times.
Oh, wow.
Before I end up with just white.
Wow.
And maybe that's the final image.
I was going to say, have you thought about doing that as a series? Like you can buy this entire, progression of original image through the 16 iterations to white, and that's what you purchase.
The idea that I have is, as soon as I make this new image, the old one gets destroyed.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
I destroy the print and then I delete the file.
So you're only left with that new
image.
That new scan, for lack of a better word. Wow. That's a really cool idea. Yeah, I like that a lot. Have you done a full 16 image progression yet? I would love to see that.
No, I haven't. I've done 4 or 5 images. I've done the first bit. Mm-hmm. I haven't printed them. I ran out of ink on the other day, so. But I'm going to be printing those on Monday. Yeah, Monday. I have all of Monday off.
Yeah, what a great idea! I love that idea. I love that. So you're at the same time zooming in and zooming back.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific.
So this little corner that's got zoomed out then becomes big, and then that big one zoom in a little part of it, and then it becomes something new.
At what point? How many in? I mean, I guess it obviously depends on the photograph, but I wonder if there's an average of how many iterations in before you complete the source image is unrecognizable anymore. Like you couldn't tell what the original image was. It's got to happen pretty quickly.
I think I estimated 3
mm-hmm.
would be the average, where if I laid out this new image and then had like 4 or 5 and asked you to pick which one does this belong to, I don't think you could.
Interesting.
I think 3, because I mean, you're looking at maybe a 3-inch square.
Right.
That gets blown up, and that 3-inch square, you're looking at a 3-inch square inside of that 3-inch square.
That's such a great idea. Love it. Subscribe to get every in-between, every iteration, every process driven, as well as special one-off conversations all in one feed. Just search for Jeffrey Sidoris Everything in your favorite podcast app. And just as a reminder, if you do subscribe to any of those individual show feeds, they will be going away on April 1st. So please do subscribe to everything so you don't miss anything. You can connect with me on Instagram and Twitter at Jeffrey Sidoris. That's JeffreySaddoris, or on my website at jeffreysidoris.com. Connect with Kristopher on Instagram at Kristopher.Matheson. That's KRISTOPHER.MATHESON, or on Twitter at Chris Matheson, or by visiting his website at chrismatheson.com. And if you haven't listened to the episode of Process Driven I did with Kristopher a while back, you can find that in your favorite podcast app. It's a terrific conversation. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate you being here. I'll talk to you on the next one.